Hey guys, welcome. To this time, we are going to start a new series about Express, or maybe how to create a Express web server, or the way I used to create web servers. First of all, remember that in this in the whole course, we are going to use JavaScript, TypeScript, Express, Node.js, all relate with that specific environment. So maybe, yeah, we are not to cover, or we are not going to cover maybe other frameworks or more advanced and maybe in some occasion better frameworks like Nest.js, because the idea is understand the basement, or maybe, yeah, the fundamentals about web server, and maybe be able to understand and create advanced features, because frameworks like Nest.js used to be open the box or something like that. It's just like execute this command and you already have a endpoint with this middleware and more. So this course will be nice for those that don't know even what is a web server, because we are going to cover some important concepts, and maybe the reason that maybe the reason behind that we are going using that specific entities concept, whatever you want, and be able to maybe recreate the same idea, maybe in a different framework using Nest.js, or even in a different programming language. The idea is understand the fundamentals about web server, how web server works, and the way we can program our own web servers. And in other hand, be able to create a Node.js web server using the Express library. That is a pretty extensive and useful library that allows to maybe make a web server more easily, because Express is maybe a third party library, because it's not by default, or not is not in by default on the next and on the Node.js installation, maybe with the standalone package about HTTP, if I'm not wrong. But in this case, I am not going to explain how to use HTTP, because HTTP is pretty basic, and mostly programmers used to learn first of all Express. But it doesn't matter at all. Maybe if you want, maybe you can pause this course and try to see how HTTP module works, and after you get some basic idea, you can continue with this one. But doesn't matter, we are going to start from the beginning in all the way out. So yeah, and this is literally because we are going to start from the beginning, even for when we are going to create the first project folder. So let's go to documents, sync, and in my case, I have to create a new folder called courses, maybe courses, cd courses, and let's create the Express course. So go into the Express course, and maybe the basic command to start a Node.js project is, in my case, npm init. And the reason why I'm pretty lazy, I am going to use, or well, I am pretty lazy, so I am going to use the -i, that maybe just skip all the configuration, that in my case is doesn't necessary at all, and in your case is probably that is not necessary too. So in the other hand, let's close this project and open the new one. So in my case, I have course Express, and here we go. So that's nice. We already have a package.json. So maybe from the beginning, I recommend just create a source folder to be more organized. And after that, we are going to remove this test. Let me just increase this zoom in, or make zoom in. And after that, create the classic dep node script. And in my case, and for this moment, Meanwhile, we are going to use, or we will be using vanilla JavaScript. But the idea is try to use TypeScript, but we are going to configure TypeScript in the following episode. So we are going to try to set up the basic project configuration. So let's continue with node source index .js, and maybe that's all. Hello world, for example. And let's open. Maybe if you're asking why I know a lot of different shortcuts in Visual Studio Code, let's dive into the shortcuts and maybe some tools that I highly recommend. So don't worry about it. In my case, if you are looking for open the command palette, that is this little window that allows to execute some commands, like, I don't know, open a new terminal, or maybe open a folder, or save files and more. Well, it's just with Control Shift P, and as you can see, it's pretty similar to without using Shift, just Control P. But Control P is like a index bar that allows to open with without using the mouse, maybe a specific file, like, I don't know, in my case, just there are two, index.js and package.json. So for example, I can use package.json or go back to index.js, just typing Control P and go back to next index.js. And in this case, it's similar because I just have to use this signal, this sign that is, I don't know if greater than, if I'm not wrong, and it's the same that if we use Control Shift P, so it's pretty similar in that case. So for me, I'm going to create a new terminal. So let's type new terminal, and maybe I am pretty lazy, so I think, or I thought, by default I'm using CSH. So let's go and see what happened. Of course, we are using CSH, and I don't like use the terminal in this section, so I'm going to click in this section and select the second one, move terminal into editor area, and we can use the terminal window like a file window. And I used to move this one just right there, maybe decrease the explorer size, and I think that's it. So let's execute this file. Well, maybe thanks to this course is probably that new people came to the channel. So in my case, I just try to, well, it's important to say that I'm using a Linux based operating system. I'm talking about Fedora, and well, it's not necessary at all, but maybe some extra tools depend on this operating system. So don't worry if maybe I just show some tricks that maybe to improve your programming workflow, because it's not the main purpose of the course. So don't worry. It's for example, I just remember that if we want to execute this script, people used to execute npm run dev, and maybe in new versions, if I'm not wrong, we can use node run dev, of course. And maybe there is a pretty difference just for efficiency. It's just like npm run dev, maybe take a little more time that node hyphen run dev. So maybe just to get, because this is the classic one, this is new, so we are going to use the new way to execute this. Oh, of course, I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm thinking about. So I'm going to show how to create a alias, maybe we can execute this command more easily. So I'm trying to show you, for example, how can I run my web server using nrd. And the reason why I can do this is because I'm using well, it's thanks to my terminal. So maybe for Windows users, don't worry. Maybe you can also add some aliases to PowerShell or CMD or command line in Windows. But in my case, I'm going to show you how to add to any Linux-based distribution. So it's pretty simple. It doesn't matter maybe if you are using Bash or CSH. So in my case, I'm going to use the home folder, and maybe if you're using Bash, you have to use bash rc, and in my case, I'm going to use cshRC, and go for some section. I promise I won't take a lot of time, and in my case, I'm using the alias nrd for npm run dev, but I'm going to change this for node run dev. So that's pretty nice. So save the file. To see the change, we have to reload the configuration file. And once we do this, we can use entry there. And as you can see, we have hello world. It's pretty different, but that's it. Don't worry. Let's continue with the Node.js course. Well, the Express course. So we already have the basic configuration. So maybe let's install the Express library and make some basic configuration. And maybe in the following episode, we are going to configure TypeScript. So we are going to start installing the Express library. So first of all, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I tell you let's install this library and more, let me show you what is npm, because npm is a package manager used for Node.js. So go to npm, and as you can see, it's like a nice shop where you can find nice little application that allows to create your application more efficiently. So in my case, I'm going or look for Express. That is a pretty used a lot library. So let's go for Express, and as you can see, Express has almost 30 million weekly downloads, and it's a pretty big one. But for example, this tool allows you for I don't know, look for another libraries like WhatsApp WebJS. Let me see, because I don't remember how's the name. I don't remember. I think .js. I don't remember. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think this is the one. Of course, yeah, this is the WhatsApp.js that allows you to create WhatsApp bots without using the official WhatsApp API. On the other hand, I don't know if you know about Discord and Discord bot. You can create Discord bot using the pretty famous Discord.js, the well-known Discord.js. So as you can see, we have a lot. npm registry is the biggest package manager in all programming ecosystem. I don't know, but I remember, yeah, it's there are more npm packages than pip in Python or Java in Maven. So yeah, it's pretty nice. Node.js is very wild or broad used. So go back to Express, because I really enjoy to explain things, important things, of course, because there's a lot to explain. But go back to Express, and as you can see, we have a lot of information that we are going to cover in each different section of the course. But the first and important one is the installation command, that is always, and it will be always, npm install and the library's name, in this case Express. So go back to this section just right there. I can close this one and use npm install Express. But of course, programmers, as well known, programmers well known as lazy people, prefer to write or maybe wrote short expression or instruction. So in my case, I highly recommend using, instead of the whole install word, you can use just I express. So npm I express. So we have to wait for a few seconds. And as you can see, we already have some new information. For example, we have the packet deletion. That is a pretty advanced file that maybe you save metadata about what register version we used. And of course, the most important one is the node modules. That is a pretty extensive folder where all the libraries files will be stored. And of course, the libraries used by the library we already installed. Because, of course, Express use or has dependencies, in this case, 31. And we can see them in this section just right there. And as you can see, so that's nice. Added, I don't know why 65 package, but yeah, just take like something in, okay, yeah, there is 65 package because this is recursive. For example, I don't know, if we install, let's use body parser, and of course body parser has another dependency, so these dependencies also has to be installed, and maybe Node.js, Node modules could take a little space. But for example, if we look for, we have the Express folder and we have all the code right there. So let's create the basic web server. In my case, I'm going to use, okay, we have to configure the module manager. So in my case, I'm going to use smodules. So type, and as you can see in the description just right there, when set to module, the type file allows to a package to specify all .js files with our smodules. If the type file is omit or set to CommonJS, all .js files are treated as CommonJS. So yeah, the difference between the common and modules, it depends on the way that we can export and import stuff. When I talk about the stuff, it's just like code or other files or libraries. So I'm going to show you the difference. For example, if I want the Express object from the Express library using smodule, I have to use import. This is the modern way. So in my case, or the modern approach, in my case, I'm going to use Express and use from and specify the library's name, in my case, Express. So that's one. That's one. But in other hand, if we use if we remove type or use CommonJS, we have to add libraries like this one. Require, okay, I'm sorry, I don't remember. A cons express equals require express. This is a classic one, and I'm sorry, this is the classic one. It's been a long time that I don't use this syntax because it's not common. Most people used to apply the CommonJS because I'm sorry, apply the smodules because it's the modern way, and the better, of course. Maybe I don't know if it's right, but people talk about that in the newest Node.js versions, the default module will be smodule instead of CommonJS, but we'll see in the future. So after that, we are going to create the web, the web server, the web server using Express, and is about cons app express. We only have to execute this object like a function, and we have the the express object. Maybe you are not familiar with this library. Let's go dive into the documentation. So in my case, let's go to website and documentation. You can see well, you can use getting started, but in my case, I'm going to use API reference. And let me see, because I don't know what Express version. Okay, I'm using the 4 version. So go to the 4 one. I don't know what difference are between the 5 and the 4. If, to be honest, I didn't know. I even didn't know that Express. But if we use, and by default is the 4 version, because the 5 one is not ready at all. This is pretty slow. And if we see versions, well, the 5 is well, go out like 2 months ago, but as you can see, the default version is the 4. But okay, good to know. And as you can see, we have some information just right there. We have the methods related with the express object, but I want to show you the application object. So go to the right side, and if you can see application, some have some properties, and the important one is maybe use, well, we are going to create this, so don't worry. But yeah, one of them is use the get method that allows you to listen to a specific path. So yeah, okay, we are talking about a lot of stuff, so don't worry. So we are talking about method, but we are talking about a path. So don't worry about it. I prefer just use the same comment, just like that, method and path. And yeah, I am going to be pretty extensive in this course, because the idea is for people that doesn't know nothing about this. So method, it's related with HTTP methods. And the HTTP methods is just this one right there, that allows to perform the basic operation about resource in internet or on internet, I don't know. And yeah, if you wonder, it's just like get, that means I am looking for something, I need information. Post, it's for I want to share something, give a maybe in English it's pretty simple, because it's just post, make the action to upload something. You can post a photo, you can post a blog page, whatever you want is possible when you want to create something, not just consume or get. In the other hand, we have put, but also we have patch. But in this case, we are going to talk about of the two as the same way, and allows to edit information or modify information. So once we create information, we can also modify the same information, or maybe in some scenarios it's better delete the information and create again, preserving some attributes. But yeah, it's the same idea. And at least, but pretty obvious, is delete, that allows to remove resources. So that's the most common HTTP methods. There are more, but this is the popular ones. And on the other hand, when we talk about path, we are talking about the URL or the URI that allows to access to a specific endpoint also. But endpoint and more. But well, endpoint is just if someone tells you about the endpoint, we are talking about the URL, the final URL. For example, https www.facebook.com/chrisloprofile. That's the full path. But the endpoint is just the information after the domain name. For example, /Chrislo page in the whole Facebook data, blah blah blah. So in this case, path Also, is same associate, but maybe you can use URL. So maybe it's important that you get familiar with that. Maybe path endpoint could be related with the same idea. So let me show you something. URI, the URI, and maybe I'm not a man that care about concepts. So precisely, I don't care. But yeah, it's important to understand the difference between URL and URI. So let's open this file. And here we go. So as you can see, we have in a full URI, we have the URL that includes the scheme that is HTTPs or HTTP, and we have the host that is also known with the IP address or the domain name. And after that, we have the path, that the path is after the slash, after the domain slash, like for example, what is my IP address, and the URL is also covered until the path, because the following one is maybe used to refer to a specific resource and a specific ID inside that resource. So yeah, the URI is the full direction. The URL is including the scheme, host, and path. Well, a half of the path, and the scheme and host, you already know what is that. So yeah, that's important to know. So in my case, the path or the endpoint is the same. In my case, I don't know, is for example users. If you want to get user from some place, you can use that. But maybe once you are using the application in final instance, you are going to use, for example, the URL. And the URL is, for example, http://localhost, the port, and the path. And maybe the URI, yeah, you can use whatever you want and make some magic stuff, but we are not going to cover yet. So let's create a basic one. Let's make a mapping. When I talk about mapping, is just listen to a specific method and path. So let's use, for example, the get method to the root path. Is the root path because it's the first slash. It's like, for example, I don't know, facebook.com. That's the root, because it's pretty different than facebook.com/Chrislo. It's pretty different. So let's create a new one using app-get, and maybe let me disable completions because it's pretty distract. And in the path, we are going to use the slash because it's only about that. And after that, we have to use a callback. Or well, a callback, yeah, it could be a callback, or also anonymous function, because we are talking about JavaScript, that receive two important params. That is about request and response. And after that, we are going to create the function body. And in my case, well, in this case, I can use information from the request, but it's a pretty simple request, so I'm not looking for information inside that. And after, I'm going to just use the response object and send a response, like, I don't know, hello world. So where are we talking about? So maybe if you see in this case, we have in the app get, we have the callback, and the callback have a lot of information. But as you can see, we have the request and response object. So let's go to the request object, and as you can see in the request object, we can access to a lot of different information. But I want to show you about the response object, and if you see in the response object, you see the send method that allows to send a lot of different information. Maybe to send JSON, send plain HTML, send plain text, JSON, well, again, JSON objects, whatever you want, including other kind of file. In my case, I'm going to send just plain information. And after that, we are going to start the web server, but we have to listen to a specific port. But because the application that used by internet use a specific port, the most basic one is the 3000. So to listen a specific port, we have to use the listen a method, and maybe we have to, well, we can use the string or number. So let's use 300, and that's it. Let's run the server, the Express server. Maybe you don't see nothing, but the process is just like freeze. But the process is not freeze, it just started until I stop it voluntary, or maybe stop by an error. So go back to the web explorer, and if you see local host, and as you can see, we have a nice message from hello world. And yeah, that's it. That's was the first web server created by yourself. So congratulations, and see you in the next episode, where we are going to dive into some specific stuff and also configure the TypeScript environment. So see you in the next time. Bye bye.